We are at a crossroads now as we come out of the restrictions that the pandemic put upon us. The only restriction we have now at level 1 is that we're not allowed to travel overseas.
No.
In our lives, we have a choice of taking the road to return to our lives as it was pre-pandemic, or take a new path. Perhaps a new path out of the rat race, a new path out of the consumerism and materialism of our modern world. It's a decision that each one of us needs to make. The crossroads consist of two: return to what we had before, or move to new, perhaps uncharted territory. I want to address this crossroads not so much in your own personal lives, because we're all going to go through that, but I want to talk about it in relation to the church. I've had people express the view that they hope that this pandemic, this lull that we've had, this lockdown, this hiatus we've had between church and coming back together will be a chance for us to come back to do a fresh way of church. Some mentioned to me that they found a greater sense of community during lockdown in their own geographic area. And that in their home groups they got into a deeper relationship through the Zoom meetings than they did in the face-to-face. Others, of course, struggled with the whole lockdown idea.
I did.
Someone suggested to me that when they were in lockdown and they went for a walk, all the neighbours waved to them. Now that we're out of lockdown, nobody waves at all. They just whiz past. See, we are in a wonderful position right now of this brief window to make a decision before that moment passes and we start just going back to the default setting. We are in what is called a liminal space. And for those who don't know that term, liminal comes from the Latin word limen, which means threshold, a point of entering or beginning. A liminal space is that time between what was and what will be. It's a place of transition, a season of waiting, a season of not knowing. It's where transformation takes place as we learn to wait and let it form us. The theologian Richard Rohr says this: we are betwixt and between the familiar and the completely unknown. There alone is our old world left behind, where we're not sure of its new existence. There is a good space where genuine newness can begin. He says, get there often and stay as long as you can by whatever means possible, because this is a sacred space where the old world is able to fall apart and a bigger world is revealed. If we don't encounter liminal space, he says, we start idealizing normalcy. The threshold is God's waiting space. Here we're taught openness and patience as we come to expect an appointment with the divine doctor. I thought that's a wonderful statement from Richard Rohr. And I thought the idea of a threshold of waiting and not knowing the future is really applicable right now. Most of us, if we're honest, don't know how to navigate this time. We can either stand paralysed or we can flee the terrible cloud of unknowing and rush back to what we had before because it's safe. Our default emotion is fear. We fear the unknown. We fear change. We fear not having control. We fear not knowing exactly what's happening next. That's why people go back to what there was, because it's what they know. You see that in battered wives. You take them out of this situation, they've been beaten up, but you turn around and they've gone back. Because even though it was bad, it's what they know. But if we always do what we always did, we'll always get what we always got. And there's no need for that. There's no need to have fear. There's no need to take that default of fear. Because fear is a threat. Fear doesn't hold truth. It will divide us between each other and it will divide us from others. But simply confronting it and naming it takes away its power. The Bible tells us in 1 Timothy 1:7 that the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. If we really trust God, we wouldn't fear anything. If we really trust God, we can meet the challenges of life head on, knowing that in the end, God's side wins. Trust. That's what we're talking about. During the latter stages of the lockdown, I had this sense of uneasiness, this restlessness, as we started to come out of the deeper levels of the pandemic. And I couldn't work out why I had that. Surely I would be elated that we're coming out of the pandemic, that we're coming out of lockdown, we're coming out of level 4, level 3, and level 2. But I wasn't. I was restless. So I spoke to my spiritual director and we unpacked it together. And what I found was I was experiencing a holy discontent with the status quo. A holy discontent with the status quo. I didn't want to go back to what it was before. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. See, I think God was stirring something within me. There was a holy discontent arising about transforming from the status quo to a hopeful, new, better tomorrow. What if the lockdown has been a chance for us to hit that reset button? I was challenged by a writer, Belden Lane, and he says, indifference is the scourge of domesticated Christianity. Tired and worn out, readily accommodating itself to its culture, bowing to the social pressures of the status quo. It remains so tame as to fear nothing as much as the disdain of sophisticated unbelief. It is the indifference that allows the church to abandon its call to radical obedience to Christ in the world. What if this lockdown time was a call from God to do church better, to reach more people? But if we just sit with that vague sense of discontent, very soon it will dissipate. And it will stagnate and we'll just go back to what it was before. Because it's easy. Change will only happen if the pain of staying where you are exceeds the pain of change. Am I the only one with this discontent?
No.
Sorry, Chris, could you say that one more time? Change will only happen.
Change will only happen if the pain of staying where you are exceeds the pain of change.
You're not on your own, Chris.
Are we happy to go back to what we did, even if it didn't work?
No.
Are we happy with the declining church attendances? Are we happy with the decline in people claiming to follow Jesus?
Yes.
Are we happy with the failure to reach people with the gospel using traditional methods?
Yes.
Are we happy that the classes of people that Jesus spent all the time with are absent from our congregations?
Yes.
Are we happy with what we did before the crisis? If you too have this discontent, what can we as a church do about it?
Pray.
Hold on to that thought, because I'm going to ask you, I'm going to take the mic around later on, just for some thoughts. So hold on to that thought. So what do? The first thing we need to do is very basic. First thing it is, trust God. The church is God's church. The church is God's vehicle to save the world. The church is not our church. but it belongs lock, stock and barrel to God. And if He placed that holy discontent with the status quo within us, then we need to trust Him that He will show us the way forward. Amy Carmichael, a missionary to China, said, He comforts, He lays His right hand on a soul wounded by weariness or fear or any kind of weakness. And He says, as though that were the only one in all the universe, O person greatly loved, fear not. Peace be with you. Be strong. Yes, be strong. That's Daniel 10:19. And when He's thus spoken to us, she says, we are strengthened. I'm reminded that by trusting God, we're also trusting in the outcomes that He has for us that we can't see at the moment. The New Zealand writers Mackenzie, Kirkland and Durham, in their book called Soul Purpose, remind us that a change in season is like driving around a slowly turning bend. It takes time, but can also be very frustrating because until we're right round the corner, we don't see what's ahead. We're in that corner at the moment. We don't know what's ahead. So we need to trust God that He has a plan. The second thing we need to do is dream. Famous Frenchman, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, is famous for saying, if people want to build a ship, don't tell people to gather wood, but you don't tell people to gather wood, divide up the work and give orders. Instead, teach them about yearning for a vast and endless ocean. Look at the big picture. Allow God to give you big God dreams. On our first day back as gathered church, I asked you what God had been saying to you, and some people shared their thoughts. And the one that struck me, and Colin, I haven't asked you about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Colin shared a great big dream that he received from God. Of Jesus, the ocean liner, coming into a harbour and pushing aside all the little yachts of our own endeavour, because Jesus was going to come in there full tilt and displace all the little things that we did. That spoke to me of God doing a new thing, far greater than we can ever imagine. Our little yachts of ministry need to move aside and allow the great ocean liner of Jesus to come in there and do His thing. Now, putting our yachts on the trailer might seem counterproductive, but that's because God has something greater for us to do. Every ministry in the church started with somebody's dream. Every church, every parachurch, every church college, every Christian publisher, every missionary organisation started with somebody's dream. That's why dreaming is so important. Right now, the Holy Spirit may be speaking to you or speaking to me, and we need to listen to what that dream is. The Proverbs tell us that we perish from lack of vision. Well, that saying is the same for churches. As Rick Warren said, going through life without a dream is like going shopping without a list. And over this, because we're in this liminal time, which will only be a short time of liminality, over the next few weeks we're going to hold discussions, asking you what you're hearing from God in relation to this church and its ministries and its mission. The elders are going to meet with my spiritual director, who's Steve Tollestrop, who was the CEO of Tear Fund and now runs his own business, working with Christian organisations, looking at strategic stuff. And he's offered his services free for us, for the elders, to sit with him in this unpacking period of discontent. On Sunday the 21st and Sunday the 28th, straight after church, Kerry Revel, the chairperson of the Trust, and Carlene and Mike from the Living Well Trust, which used to be called Ebenezer Trust, will be holding a forum about what does the church want for community ministries. Just because we've been doing something for so long is not necessarily that we need to keep doing it. There may be something different, a different focus that God has pressed into your heart. Another is the church council will be having a meeting. We have them every 2 months. But this time, instead of having an agenda, I've said to the people who come, the ministry leaders and the trust leaders and the elders, to say, what is God saying to you? What has God said to you over this lockdown period? What is He saying to you about the future? And today I want to hear from you as well. And not only today, if you're too scared to stand up and say something, that's okay. Ring me during the week.
Or you
Take me out for coffee, I like coffee.
All you got to do, Chris, like you said, if you're scared, you could stand up on the stage and just be yourself.
That's right, that's right.
That's how I see it.
That's right. We want to hear what you say and what you are hearing from God. You know, I'm not the font of all God knowledge, nor are the elders, nor are our ministry leaders. God speaks to each one of us. We believe in the priesthood of all believers in the Baptist Church. So God is speaking to you, and we want to hear them so that we can head in the direction that God wants us to go, out of this liminal space. But once we've received these dreams, the next thing we've got to do involves a word called courage. Courage is the ability to challenge the status quo, to risk, to embrace conflict. It's not the absence of fear, but of doing what is right, what is necessary, what God has told us to do. It takes courage to live with that fear of the unknown. But we all have courage because God gives us courage. Now, so I think some of you may be saying, okay, well, good. Now, what are we going to do? Chris, tell us. I can't. Because I too are listening. All I can signal is that the post-pandemic church will or may be different to what it was. The holy discontent with the status quo is just the first step. It can be likened to digging around a fruit tree. I don't know how any of you have ever transplanted a fruit tree. You don't dig right round it completely because you'll kill it. But what you do is you dig halfway around and cut off some of the roots. And then you wait until those roots have healed and they're balled up a bit more. And then you go around the other side and you chop the other side and then wait for those to heal. And then you lift the tree out and you transplant it. We're in that transplanting stage. Someone has dug around half our roots. I had another liminal time in my life, and that's between when I was at Bible college and finished and graduated, and before I was called to a church. And I was talking to my spiritual director at that time, Jane Wilkinson, and the picture I got was of a fruit tree with its roots wrapped in a Hessian bag and placed behind the potting shed. I had confidence that I wasn't being abandoned, because why would the gardener put me in a Hessian bag if he was only going to throw me on the compost heap? And he placed me behind the potting shed because that was a safe place. I had confidence that the gardener, God, had prepared or was preparing a place for me to go. We have that confidence now. We have confidence in this gardener who is God as he prepares us for the next stage of this church. We can trust the gardener in a time of change, that he has not abandoned us. He's not cast us onto the compost heap. We know that he's preparing the right soil, the right environment, the right season to plant us so that we may bear fruit. I'm reminded in this of John 15:1, which says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that doesn't bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that doesn't bear fruit, he prunes, so that we'll bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I've spoken to you. Abide in me and I in you. As a branch can't bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, He it is that bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered and thrown in the fire and burned. That's that picture. We may be pruned and trained like an espalier pear. No one likes pruning, no one likes change. I acknowledge that. We fear pruning, we fear change, because it can be painful. But it involves us trusting God that He has a plan for us. The gardener knows best. Psalm 1:3 says this, I'll leave it with it. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, which brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. I believe there is a new season for this church. I believe there's a new season for that church. I believe that God is doing something new. Do I know what it is? No, I don't. But I believe God has plans, and we need to partner with Him. It's your turn.
So 11 months before Chris came, I felt that God was saying to me, I want to knock down the front wall of the church out there by the street. I want to knock the whole wall down. And when Chris came, I told him that. I thought God said, I want to knock the front wall of the church down. And Chris said, I want to too.